What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about Call of Duty and Game Pass. That situation, that story has been brought up, obviously, as we go into tomorrow, as the game, officially and formally launches. And, there's articles going around. They talk to some different journalists, talk to some, gaming analysts, and, if you saw the kind of headline going around, there's a talk of, 2.5 to 4 million Game Pass subscribers is kind of what the estimate is that they might be bringing in because of Call of Duty. Now, one of those analysts is Michael Pachter, who I used to watch him when he was on game trailers and all that stuff, and I used to like the guy, but he gets so much freaking wrong, and he was, I believe, one of 5 analysts talked to. But what I kind of want to do for this video, I kind of laid the foundation there. Just want to talk about my own thoughts and have you guys, let me know what you think in the comments. It's interesting, right? Honestly, I care about the quality of Call of Duty. This is actually the first one, specifically, I guess, single player, the story. This is the first COD game I've played in 12, 13 years. I'll try the multiplayer. I'll try pretty much everything this game has to offer tomorrow and going into the weekend. I'm moderately excited. I'm not going to sit here and say this is my most anticipated game. It's just, it's a genre that I don't get too deep into. But I just kind of want to say that too before we get too deep into this topic, where it's I care about the games. I talk about games pretty primarily on these channels. I'm a consumer by trade, but I'm a consumer of I want to say good products, right? I want these games to be good, and that's again, that's a big part of what I talk about. However, the Game Pass stuff is interesting. It's an interesting story because this is really where we're gonna see the game plan, right? Or we're gonna see whatever Xbox and Microsoft have been thinking internally. This is kind of do or die, right? Game Pass, what we do know, right? Microsoft kind of sets pretty big expectations. The idea that Game Pass can get 60, 70, 80 plus million, and I think it's actually what they want is an even higher number, of those subscribers in maybe 5 to 10 years from now. It's never going to happen, but when you buy Activision Blizzard, when you buy Bethesda, right, and you're investing so heavily in Game Pass, it's okay, you start to isolate a few games where it's okay, you're going to make or break this strategy based off these couple games. Now, I'm not going to pretend like I know the inner workings of Game Pass, but if Call of Duty does not get them within reach, or at least moving in the right direction of where they want to go, I don't know what game will, right? Maybe Elder Scrolls, but when you think about the upcoming ones like Stalker, Indiana Jones, Avowed, if you go into next year, Indy is, I think, going to be a pretty sizable game, but you're talking about a game that's maybe 5 to 10 million units. I personally think Stalker, maybe even less. I think Avowed even less than that. But these are not indie games. These are pretty sizable games, but none of them can really compare to COD, right? That's why this is so important. That's why this is such a hot topic amongst the industry scholars out there, right? Where it's Call of Duty, this is the only one that can do numbers like this. Sales, people playing it, Game Pass subscribers, the only other one I could imagine is Elder Scrolls, and that's kind of just carried by name alone. Starfield probably did pretty well for Game Pass, but what's pretty well? We don't really know. Did that get them an extra million? Did it get them 700,000? They didn't really say, and I don't really know if they will say for COD either, personally. If it does 2.7 million new subscribers, I think maybe Starfield did. I feel like they said something about it, but then they kind of stopped. It was the first week or first month, and there wasn't anything more to it. I wonder if COD is a similar thing. And when you read these articles about the 2.5 to 4 million thing, you obviously get both sides of the aisle, right? You get people saying oh, that's not good enough, that's terrible actually, and you have people saying it's the greatest thing of all time. You would be maybe shocked to find this out. I find myself more in the middle of two extremes when it comes to the internet. I try to take a pretty rational approach. No, look, if Call of Duty can get them 3 million subscribers, I think that's a pretty big deal. Correct me if I'm wrong. Game Pass is somewhere in the realm of 25 to 30 million subscribers, maybe. I don't remember. Honestly, PlayStation Plus, I think is 40, 45. I don't remember 1,000%. So you can let me know the official numbers. But to move it, you wouldn't be moving it that significantly, I guess, right? Say if it's at 30 million right now and you get 3, That's 10%. But the thing is, like, we don't know, like, is that good? Because it took this long to get to 30. So if you can raise it 10% with one game, that's pretty good. Now, the issue is, and this is again something that I'm interested in, like, I don't necessarily care how it plays out because I have no stake in the business, right? But two kind of things come to mind. Number one, how do you, or do you, hold those people, right? So say it's 30, 35 million, and you get like 3 million extra people through COD, right? Okay, well, how long do you hold on to those people? And, do they eventually unsubscribe? But maybe they don't, because like COD is like a yearly thing, and then you could play Indiana Jones. Also, does that, I guess, kind of combine with that, does that keep the trajectory going up? Because that kind of goes back to what I spent the first few minutes kind of setting up, right? Like, they have a good lineup to me. But, like, the thing is, the people that you're getting for COD don't necessarily play almost any other. And that's something you got to remember. Like, specifically, new Game Pass subscribers for Call of Duty, that they're subscribing to Game Pass tonight and they're subscribing to Game Pass tomorrow, right? Are these the most, like, well-versed gamers of all time? I'm not questioning, like, their talent level, but, like, how many games do they play? Do they play the Indiana Joneses? Like, is this going to help future games that are on Game Pass, right? When a game launches and it does a million players, right, on Game Pass, well, that's a million out of 30 million that could have played it through Game Pass. Okay, well, now you raise that 30 million to 33 million. Does the player base increase with that number, or does it stay the exact same? Because, and also, I guess, does that matter? Does that matter? Because it's like, well, you're still getting that recurring income, right? Every month you're getting that money, but then they're not supporting like a Hellblade, or they're not supporting like an Avowed. And how does the money get broken up inside Microsoft? Like, there's always a lot of questions that tweets can't really get into. It's why I like making videos. But, those are kind of things that I think about. But I guess, what I just talked about kind of was my point number two, right? Like, where do the numbers go right after COD? And like I said, like, they might not unsubscribe because it's like, well, they can play COD the whole year, and then next year you have another COD on Game Pass, so it doesn't really change much. But then does the trajectory increase? Do you get more people playing Indiana Jones than you would have simply because of Call of Duty? Like, what are the major ramifications? And like I said, like, this is kind of the biggest you're ever going to do. So whatever they're looking to do, you gotta, I mean, I'm not saying you do if it's really, say, at 30 million, I think the number was like 100. I don't remember if like Phil Spencer said that or if that was a Microsoft thing. I remember like years ago, like that was a number floated where maybe it was Microsoft like expected or wanted 100 million Game Pass subscribers by a certain year. I mean, there's no chance in hell. You're not tripling and then some your current base. Like, that's just, I mean, and if it does happen, it's going to take an extremely long time. So, okay, if Call of Duty can do 10, 11, 12% of the numbers you have right now, that's pretty good, but that's also probably the best you're going to get. You're not going to do better than that with Indiana Jones. You're not going to do better than that with Avowed. Again, these are games that I am infinitely more excited about those two than Call of Duty. But that's just my style, right? Like, there's many people that would disagree, and that's kind of the point, right? Like, Call of Duty is a special, specific kind of game. If you don't get those people now, again, what other game really rivals it? Like, Gears of War is huge, right? Gears of War, I imagine, would be a big bump. Fable might be a bump, depending on, like, the quality. Doom might do that, right? And Doom is a kind of specific, like, a specialized kind of game, right? But, like, what game are you getting millions upon millions of people subscribing to the service? You really, up until this point, you might have only ever done it with Starfield. I don't even know if you did it with Halo Infinite, and that goes to the point of, like, Halo should be much bigger and better than it really is right now. But you know what I mean? Like, when are you gonna have this chance again? I guess besides like every year, for the next Call of Duty. But I don't know, repetition, like, this is the most you're going to get. Even like the next year's COD. CODs can like increase in quality and decrease in quality, but they keep coming. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like overall COD, at least to me, it feels like it's kind of like maximized. You know what I mean? Like, COD is such a safe top 3 best-selling game of any given year, but it'll fluctuate a little bit, but I don't know if it's reaching, it might be breaking records still. I remember like every year in the early 2010s, right? Every year just beat the record of the past. I don't know if it's still doing that, but I can't imagine it's got that much more to go to maximize. So again, it's like, this is probably the best you're gonna get. So just an interesting thing. Again, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a game that's coming out on a service that I pay for, so I'm getting it for free. I'm getting Indie for free. I'm getting Avowed for free. Like, again, like, I judge these games based off the quality. I don't really care how the end of the story goes. I mean, but I am a commentator. I believe that might be the phrase. I like to talk about these things, but I guess I have no vested interest in like what happens. Like if it gains 3.2 million, great. If it gains 2.1 million, great. That probably matters to Microsoft, but it doesn't really matter to me in my personal life. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.